All right. Anything else you want to go over before I hit the intro?
I know. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Everybody, we are back. It is Taped on Live, Favorite Raiders podcast, Favorite Raiders channel, Favorite Raiders everything. We are back. You guys already know what to do. Hit the subscribe button. Oh, gotta get it up. Subscribe button if you like it. Hit the dislike button if you don't like it. Leave a comment if you like it. Leave a comment if you don't like it. Also, follow us on Twitter at the NFL for me, at BD Williams 18 for BD. And of course, pandasubs.com, Panda Supplements. Use TDL for 35% off. Make sure you guys support that. That helps support the channel as well. So make sure you guys push for that and go ahead and get those discounts. Also, join the memberships. We got a whole bunch of cool stuff up there. I got Skaronski. I got Anthony Richardson. I got Will Levis. I got some Will Anderson on there. I got Tyree Wilson. I got I'm trying to think of all the other CJ Stroud twice. You got two
CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud's up there, yeah.
Penn State and Wisconsin. I mean, you can get the shorter versions on the regular channel, but you pay the membership, you get every single throw. So, in every single rep, except for the offensive lineman, they got like 78 reps. I'm not doing a 78 rep video. It's a lot. Usually get a half of lineman. I'm not gonna lie to you. But yeah, lineman, you're getting a half. You know what I'm saying? It's just a long breakdown for me.
A Big 12 lineman, 87 reps, them going backwards, pass pro. Come on, full slide protection the entire time. Come on.
I just can't do that yet. You know what I'm saying? So, but check those things out. We got all of those cool things in the draft. So join the membership if this is your first time here. We do get some new listeners every once in a while. We only got we're almost at 9,000. We got 8,000 subscribers, but you know what I'm saying. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button. Like I said, BD, how you feeling, man? How you feeling? Derek Carr's gone. I don't know if you knew that.
I gotta say, yes. I gotta say, what I am hearing, okay, from the Raiders, what I'm hearing from the fan base, we're teetering on the edge of insanity here in Raider Nation. I'm seeing some people. I saw a Reddit post today. Someone made a graphic, bro. This is embarrassing. I'm gonna send it to you so you can post this up, put it up. Someone made a graphic of Josh McDaniels screaming on the sideline and said something about how he's going to get the best out of whatever quarterback comes to the Raiders. Like, why didn't he do that last year then? Hold on now. What you mean he's going to get the best out of a quarterback? I just don't know what this fan base is thinking. We're all over the place right now. Ziegler went on blogging with the boys, bussing with the boys, right? He said a whole lot of nothing on there. But something that I seen attributed to him recently was admitting that they're not sure if they will have an immediate quick answer at QB. So it's like if you wanted to bridge QB, you could have just kept Carr to do that for you. But I guess it was cost prohibitive to do that. Anyways, he's going to make less than Daniel Jones is going to make. So I don't even understand what's going on right now with the NFL, with quarterbacks. I'm extremely confused right now. But Raiders, I'm not confident about it. It's going to make me pretty upset. So it's a good thing that it's draft season.
Yeah.
It's a good thing it's draft season. We'll talk about a quarterback today. Okay, and a quarterback. I would be optimistic if the Raiders got this quarterback that we're going to talk about today. I'd be optimistic. I'll let you intro him. But yeah, we're gonna talk about a little mock draft, a little 3-round mock draft. I know some people have sent us they traded back 100 times and they have a mock draft that's 75 players. That's what they need, man. That's what the Raiders need right now, right? Exactly. So I can't even be mad at that. But yeah, so we're gonna get into a little, three. It's modest. It's a conservative mock draft. It's just a three round mock draft this time. Brought to you courtesy of Marcus Johnson here. So yeah, but that's how I'm feeling right now. But yeah, I'll let you say your thoughts before we jump into it as well.
Yeah, a couple things, a couple things are coming that are about to happen right now. The defensive line coach got fired. I don't know if you saw that, BD.
Welcome, yeah. I seen that. I seen
fired,
that. Yeah,
which made sense. I mean, they didn't get a lot of sacks. They didn't really get anything.
They need some kind of scapegoat. Someone's got to get fired, right?
You didn't want to fire Patrick Graham. Somebody's got to get fired. You know what I'm saying? Scott Turner, he came in as passing game coordinator. I did a breakdown on that. That was interesting.
That's interesting.
Little West Coast look. That's on the channel too. I did a deeper breakdown, more schemes on the membership. But yeah, that was a interesting move because I'm just wondering how much power he's going to get and how much suggestions like what their plan is. But it's definitely a plan for Devontae Adams, 100%. They want to try to make Devontae happy.
Yeah.
Because it is kind of funny. Like Michael Irvin described it, like when they brought in Devontae Adams, they brought in Derek Carr's best friend, and then traded him and said, like, you're gonna stay. It's like how do you do that?
Got him. You got 1 year together. Okay, let's not get greedy. Okay,
that's funny because now they got to make Devontae feel happy. You know what I mean? Like, because he's now like the key player on this team. I mean, he is the player on this team. They have to do everything they can to make him happy. I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, if that's what I'm saying, they might not find an immediate answer because they probably don't want to trade for Aaron Rodgers. But I mean, that's probably what they should do because you want to keep Devontae happy because you brought him over here thinking, he had an idea that he was going to try to win something. And now we're like, we're going to.
You trapped him in a rebuild.
Oh, it's like, we're just kidding. We're building around you, Devontae. It was a joke.
That's not cool.
Around you.
Pull the rug out from under him. That's for sure.
but it's like, if they build around him, right, and maybe they get something. I don't know. It depends. That's what I'm saying. I think over with a rookie, I think you feel better playing with a rookie than if they bring in a
journeyman.
Maybe maybe he likes Jacoby. I don't know. Maybe Jacoby get the ball. I guess or Jimmy G.
I mean, going back to Scott Turner, I like the idea of bringing in Scott Turner. Okay, because Scott Turner was able. There's two things about Scott Turner. Who's he has at quarterback? No one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he's had to work around that, like playing with Tyler Heineke's and random guys that he's been playing with. I think Alex Smith was over there with him.
Yeah, Alex Smith. Yeah, that was the best.
A couple years ago, the best he's had for sure. Right, for sure. But then also he's got a premier elite wide receiver, Terry McLaurin, that a lot he's not necessarily a name to a lot of fans. Casual fans might not understand how good Terry McLaurin is. They might know or heard of him, but that's a beast. That is a beast of a wide receiver. Watch some Terry McLaurin all 22, and you're going to see a guy who gets a lot of honor from the defense. They're going to hang a safety over him. They're going to do things to try to take that guy away. And he's a guy that not many corners in the NFL, very, very few, less than a handful, could go and say, hey, don't worry about me, coach. I got this guy. And so I think maybe that signals what they're expecting this year. Not great quarterback, but they got Devontae Adams. Get a guy like Scott Turner in who's had to deal with that last couple of years. He has some experience with that kind of scenario, that kind of situation. So maybe that's an indicator, and at least we'll have some fresh schemes, some fresh plays at the very least for Josh McDaniels to call, if nothing else.
Yeah, something like that, man. I mean, they got to get something going, bro, because it's they got to find some kind of way to work Devontae Adams around a little bit more, and I like how Scott Turner does a lot of those things. And it kind of did signal to me that they're trying to bring in some kind of West Coast quarterback, and if they want to make their, kind of what I want to say, this is a place to come. Then you know what I'm saying. So,
before we get into the rookie that we're going to talk about, And I do think that rookie is definitely the way to go. You got to get a rookie. Period. Like, it doesn't matter who you get. If you get Tom Brady out of retirement, if you swing a trade for Aaron Rodgers, you still need to draft a rookie. Okay, because these guys are almost 40 years old, or Aaron Rodgers is almost 40, Tom Brady's over 40, right? Jacoby Brissett, that's not going to stop you from drafting a quarterback, right? Jimmy Garoppolo has never stopped any team from drafting a quarterback. So it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. If they get a bridge quarterback, if they get a veteran, you got to draft QB. I'm 100% on board. You have to draft a QB this year in the first round. Hopefully you get a first-round quarterback. That's not a reach. But anyways, can we talk about Aaron Rodgers, the possibility of bringing Aaron Rodgers in? You mentioned Scott Turner as a West Coast guy. Aaron Rodgers has been a West Coast guy his entire career, from McCarthy to now, whatever his name is. What is it? What's the head coach's name? LaFleur. McCarthy and LaFleur. So he's been a West Coast guy his entire career. But can you talk about the possibility? Like, what would that entail for the Raiders to have to, swing the fences on and get Rodgers?
A first round pick, man, they got to give up 7, which I don't like. I mean, they'd have to give up number 7 for sure. Probably number 7, and probably maybe like a 2024 second, and then probably a third this year, probably for Aaron Rodgers right now. After last season, yeah, that's probably what you're doing. But that's giving up 7 for a team that has no body under 25 that is like even
any good.
Okay, yeah. I don't know. Is Max Crosby? He's not under 25, is he? No, I think he's over 25 years old. He's been in. He played to his senior year, and he came out early.
Right. He's not he came out early or anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So, man, I don't know who on this team could be a superstar or even we feel like is really special under 25. I mean, Moreg is not really doing anything. Hobbs kind of disappointing season, so it's not the greatest outlook right now. That's why I don't want to give up Aaron Rodgers. No, I mean, it's not what are we gonna do? Are we gonna buy Jesse Bates too? We're gonna give Jesse Bates $20 million. I don't, give John Jones $20 million.
Yeah. Did any of those draft picks look good last year? Butler and Farrell didn't look any good.
Parham looked all right at times. I'm not gonna give up on Parham. He's a lineman, so
Parham was their first pick, right?
Yeah, Parham looked like he could play in the NFL for sure because he's a starter. I'll say that.
Did they have any? Who else did they pick last year? Britton Brown and Zamir White. Yeah, those guys didn't do anything.
They didn't even play.
They didn't even play. So it's not like it's not like we've seen
Josh Jacobs. My bad. Did you see Josh Jacobs talk about him playing in the preseason? Oh man, he said he was pissed about that they made him play in the preseason. That he thought
he's like, "What, Coach? Hold on, there's a typo. It says I'm up with the ones today. What's going on, Coach?"
Yeah. He's like, yeah, I feel like they were testing me. I'm like, no, that was about to be though. So that was.
Too many mind games, too many extra outside the thing, and just I don't understand this. This is, how could you be more erratic and less logical than John Gruden? How?
I don't know, bro. I don't know. All right.
Let's jump into it. 14 minutes in. That's a good intro. 14 minutes in. Okay. Let's go through 3-round mock draft brought to you by yours truly, Marcus Johnson. I'll go ahead and introduce the pick, and then you can talk about it. How about that?
And I just want to say I use pff.com for this. This is a pff.com mock draft. So the draft fell to me how it fell to me. So
yeah. Best player available, I'm guessing is what you mean by that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So when the pick came around to pick 7, okay, who did you go with 7th overall?
I went with C.J. Stroud out of Ohio State because he was on the board. And I was like, oh man, C.J. Stroud. is there, and I took him at 7. And
Before we talk about Stroud, do you think that there's a chance that he's there at 7? Do you think that's a
I do.
possibility?
I do think there's a chance at 7 because I was texting you this before, but I mean there's only two. There's never been 2 black quarterbacks to go top 10, so if the Raiders took him at 7, it'd be historic. If they took Anthony Richardson at 7, it'd be historic. That's going to be the moment. I'm watching this draft very closely because I just want to see. I want to see if they actually, because technically you would think, because I see a lot of Raiders fans, you got to trade up for CJ Stroud. And you would think that you have to, right? But
you would think, right?
You never.
But
know,
you're saying that this would be the first time that 2 black quarterbacks have been taken in top 10, and I see what you're saying there. And before people start accusing Marcus of playing race card and race baiting, all the stuff that racists say, racists love saying that. Don't race bait. Okay, before people say that, I want you guys to think back. Okay, there was a draft where Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes were available, and there was a quarterback who went before them. Okay, just think about that, guys. A quarterback who only played 1 year, started 1 year of college football. Okay, so before you guys start saying all this stuff, there is a track record of the NFL being cautious about drafting black quarterbacks. There's a track record of that. So we'll see if that maintains, or if NFL can just get the monkey off their back and just start saying, hey, let's stop talking ourselves into random quarterbacks who've only started 1 year because they look more the part of what we think a franchise quarterback and the guy who's going to be putting tickets in seat, or putting butts in seats for us, and just start taking the best talent available. So we'll see about that. But I like CJ Stroud, and I almost like him more than Bryce Young. But let me hear what your thoughts are about him.
Yeah, what I like about CJ the most is that CJ has a lot of touch. I mean, he definitely has a accurate thrower, pretty good mechanics, and he's an accurate thrower of the football. He could touch. He loves to throw the ball over top of linebackers, and he definitely has the ability to he shows the ability to get outside the pocket. He just doesn't do it a lot because he never really had to at Ohio State. I mean, he never got any pressure. I mean, his offensive line was crazy, but when he had a chance in the Georgia game, and he actually had to deal with some pressure, you saw a little bit of pocket presence there. I still think it's not the best in the world. I still think he takes a little too many sacks. Takes too many sacks, in my opinion. Sometimes I think against Penn State, you can see that on film. Him taking some sacks he probably shouldn't have took. He probably could have get rid of the football. And that's my thing. Like the Georgia game kind of puts him really high, but I know the other games you kind of see that maybe why before the Georgia game people were kind of questioning his game a little bit, but he definitely has a lot of upside.
I thought that he kind of answered some questions about his.
He did answer a lot of questions,
right?
But it does go back to consistency for me. Like, okay, yeah, you did that one game. But there's other games, like I talk about, like Penn State, where they got some pressure on him, and he didn't handle it like that. And Iowa too. Iowa got some pressure on him and didn't handle it like that. So I do believe that the Raiders would take him probably over Anthony Richardson or something like that if CJ Stroud was there, just because the seasoning and a lot of that. Even though I think the SEC Big Ten thing is a thing in Ohio State offense, is kind of why the problem too with CJ Stroud, which I think he might fall, is because of the offense season doesn't translate. Just not from it, and I know somebody's gonna say the way that they run NFL concepts. I understand that, but just the way that they spread the field out, right? And those type of things can't be done in the NFL. Like you can't put guys way outside the numbers and run dagger. You can't, and then or way outside the numbers and run like post wheel. You can't do that stuff in the NFL, right?
It's tricky for Ohio State. It's tricky for Ohio State because they almost get like the same caliber of athletes as Alabama and Georgia.
Yeah.
But then they're playing against like way worse teams. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, what are we even doing here? You know what I mean? Like they run through their schedule. They have like 2 or 3 teams on their schedule, Penn State and Michigan, that are going to punch them. And they usually beat the crap out of those teams anyways, right? So, it's almost like watching like an all-star game against like a random team every week, so I think that's a lot of the struggles that Ohio State quarterbacks come in when they're like, oh, everyone's good in the NFL. There's no like I'm throwing to like 3 all pros and have my entire watch every year offensive line. Every single guy who starts on the offensive line for Ohio State most likely plays in the NFL. Most likely.
Yeah, and another thing about that offense too is just they're just the quarterbacks are late, man. And you saw that with Justin Fields. Justin Fields, he had the speed of his process in the NFL, and that's C.J. Stroud's gonna have the speed of his process in the NFL.
Yeah,
just because the offense is set up, and everybody tells I do a breakdown, I complain because it's not him. I mean, it's not him. I mean, if you have a quick post and the guy does a play action and you make him do a 3-step drop, that's gonna be off. He's gonna be late.
Yeah, right.
Right, and
he's throwing to Marvin Harrison's son or Njigba or something like that, and it's just like
he's just running wide open.
Yeah, he just kills the guy off the line. Like the guy, like he's playing against a Big Ten corner. The Big Ten corner's ankles break, freaking off the slant, and he's just like by himself. And he's like, "Oh, yeah. I'll catch it behind me," and then run 70 yards for a touchdown. So like no one ever thinks to like make it work better on the Ohio State until they run into the playoff. Really, truly. One thing I want to talk to you about Stroud. I prefer that he's not the level of athlete, like athletically, as a Justin Fields, because we never saw him overly rely on making these off-schedule plays and overly rely on his athleticism to the point where, I think that we do see a more polished passer than a guy like Justin Fields coming out. But what do you think about that? My assessment of that.
Yeah, he's a more polished passer in my opinion, for sure. Definitely, I think Justin Fields is more accurate, but just Fields is just, and also he has a bigger arm. I think Fields is just more talented, but as like a passer, man, the touch that C.J. Stroud puts him some throws is crazy. He just has some of the best touch you'll see coming out in the NFL, and that's what's going to make him. If he gets a clean pocket, I think he's going to be fine in the NFL early on. I think he's going to have some little quirks if he joins a bad offensive line, because he was just with the greatest offensive line ever assembled. So he was just, it's literally, like you watch the Wisconsin breakdown, man. I don't think he's under pressure one time in the whole breakdown, not one time. And he's and he did make a couple mistakes from clean pockets, but he also has some amazing touch throws. So that's what he does. He just puts those perfect touch throws where like it's not, because he's not the biggest arm in the world. He doesn't have the biggest arm that you ever see, right? It's a good arm, but he puts those probably good. He put a good touch on it and gets that over linebackers in those second level throws. So and he's pretty accurate deep ball. They just didn't throw deep either at Ohio State. So it's interesting. So I mean,
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see how that goes for him.
Yeah. The other thing, as I've done, some draft prep and I'm reading about some of these guys, the reason why I said earlier I almost like C.J. Stroud more than Bryce Young is, first of all, his stature. I mean, Bryce Young, he's like a tiny guy out there. If we're keeping it a buck, right? So in comparison, C.J. Stroud, it's like that's more of what you envision when you think about like an NFL corner. He's almost 6'4". We'll see how much he ends up weighing. Weight can be added. A height obviously can't. And then if you read about some of the struggles that he went through, some adversity that he had to overcome, I think that's going to be helpful for him when he has to lead other men and when he has to dig, and find something within himself in the fourth quarter and pick himself up off the grass and deliver a strike when he's in pain and things like that. I think that's always good to have in your DNA, having a player who's overcome adversity in their life. So, if you want to read about C.J. Stroud's story, I think there are some interesting things in there that, in my mind, for my money, make me confident that he's going to be a guy that erases this whole Ohio State, draft the quarterback, draft the helmet or whatever. Ohio State quarterbacks never good in the NFL, all that. I think that he's going to be the first one that, for a while at least, that we see, and it's like, okay, this guy can play.
Yeah. It's all about. I still think it's going to take a little bit of time because that offense, but you just got to be patient with him. I think he's going to throw some picks early on. Like he's going to, if he starts earlier, I think he's he's gonna throw some interceptions. But I think it's gonna get better as the year goes along. And then I think year 2, year 3, you're gonna see a good quarterback. So
Right. Exactly. I mean, how long did it take? These guys. I know we all saw Patrick Mahomes do something in his first start, but he sat a year, right? Aaron Rodgers sat 3 years. Okay, it's okay for some of these guys to take some time to improve and take some time to be viable. Like that's perfectly fine. All right. Anything else you want to talk about with CJ Stroud before we move on?
No, we're good. We can keep moving.
All right, so here we go. Next pick up in round 2, pick 38 overall, and you went with defensive tackle Mazi Smith from Michigan. Okay, and did you do this just because Northern California, Mazi, the rapper, there's a connection there? Raiders fans might be, is that why you did that? What's going on?
I do like Mazi though, but Mazi Smith, I think he's one of the best defensive tackles in this draft. I think I forgot what ranking I have him. I think I might have him 3. I might even have him 2 over Brian Breesy because that dude is a monster, and
Right.
he uses his hands really well. He's a good pass rusher. He's a good against a run, right? I mean, he's good against a run. Sometimes he has some high pad level that can get him washed out a little bit. Washed out of some double teams, but I think you can. His pad level is not bad enough. It's unlike Neil Farrell's pad level. It's kind of it's high, but it's because he wants to get out of the passer. He has a lot of moves. He dominated against Ohio State. He had a good game against Steve Avila from TCU, who I almost took over him. Who's an awesome guard. That dude's a stud, and he had a good game against him. That was a great battle to watch between him and Steve Avila and Mazi Smith from the playoff game. Great matchup to watch if you want to watch some Mazi Smith. But yeah, Smith he's a good talent, man. That's a one guy. I know he has those the charge that might knock him because I think he's a first round pick. So that's why I think he's gonna be there at 38.
So you're taking him here at 38 because when you're watching him, you're like, okay, this is a top 20 player. He did have a run-in with law, like you said. It wasn't like he hurt anyone. He broke the law. No one got hurt. He broke the law, right? So he got slapped with like a probation offense or something like that. But you're saying if not for that, he's in the first round for sure.
Yeah, if not for that, he's in the first round for sure. I wouldn't say for sure because he's defensive tackle, but I think it wouldn't even be a question of the Raiders taking him at 38 if that didn't happen.
Okay.
So
I have not watched Mazi Smith film, but he's listed on Michigan's website 6'3", 337 pounds, and you're telling me this guy is not a run stopper? He's a pass rusher? That's what you're telling me.
He's a pass rusher. Yeah. He gets after that passer, bro. And
so this is a very interesting, unique player then.
Yes. That's why I was talking about, man, because he's a nose guard technically.
Right.
He's a nose tackle that can rush the passer. Yeah, that's what he is. He's a nose tackle that can rush the passer, bro.
I mean, I'm looking at some clips of this guy. This does not look like a guy. I mean, he doesn't look 340. That guy's 340. This guy looks like a monster.
He can move, man. That's why I think he would come in and help out right away because he could play on every down. Right?
Is this a guy that you think? Give me your comp then. Give me your comp because I got a guy in my head that I got, but I don't want to say it because I haven't watched him. So give me a comp. Guy who's come out recently, that we've watched together or we've each watched as far as draftable players go in the last 10 years or so.
I mean, with that athleticism at that big, I would say Vita Vea. I didn't want to say it, but
didn't want to say Vita Vea. It's because Vita Vea was round and he kind of had shorter arms, right?
Yeah.
I'm almost looking at him and I'm thinking, I know that Justin Simmons wasn't 340 or whatever, 330, but
no, he wasn't.
That's what I'm talking. That's what I'm talking about. The Tennessee defensive tackle.
Yes, yeah, yeah. He wasn't that big though.
Yeah,
That's what I was trying to think of someone who's that big.
right.
Yeah, he's a
So
special
it's
dude.
unique. Right.
Special player.
Okay. Very interesting. Now, this is how Raiders fans work. Okay, we already drafted a defensive tackle, 2 defensive tackles last year. Okay, so are they going to be like, what the hell are we doing? We keep on drafting defensive tackles. And we also drafted a Michigan defensive tackle a few years back that had some concerns. They weren't legal concerns, but they were like medical concerns. And it didn't really work out for the Raiders with Maurice Hurst, right? So I know some fans are going to be like, they're going to pan this pick. They're going to say, we don't like this pick. But if this guy is the guy that you're saying he is, yes, that's what the Raiders need. We need a guy who creates that push up the middle and flushes the quarterback right into the clutches of Max Crosby. Yes, that's what the Raiders need. For sure, that would change the complexion of this defense 100%. So I'm definitely in favor of a pick like that. All right, so let's go ahead and fast forward here to round 3, pick 70 overall, and you ended up taking Darnell Wright, offensive tackle from Tennessee. He's a senior. Hometown is Huntington, West Virginia. So he's a country boy, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Let's see that 6'6", 340. This is a big man. Played in the SEC. What do you like about this guy? First of all, does he play right or left?
He plays right tackle, and also he played a little bit of guard as a junior. So he has versatility, right?
I like that. Mm-hmm.
Right. But he had a great year right tackle, man. Definitely really stood out every time on fit tape. He has great technique, has an awesome snatch and trap. The snatch and trap is getting way more popular because yeah, I see that a lot. But he had a great Senior Bowl too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. He's probably one of the best right tackle, probably the best right tackle at this whole Senior Bowl. If he's not, he's probably top 3, right? He had an awesome game against Will Anderson, man. Just great technique, great feet, great understanding of what other guys want to do to him. He's great against a run too. Pusher, he's a mauler, pushes people around. I know, he's supposed to get some first round buzz, right? So I don't know if he's ever going to really be there at 70. To be honest, I think he's more of a pick at 38. I kind of just got lucky here with this PFF draft, to be honest, because it's SEC, great Senior Bowl. The guy who's going to go maybe 4 or 3, Will Anderson, he shut him down. I mean, it was pretty good, and he had a good understanding of what Anderson likes to do. He's like, okay, he likes to bull rush me. He talks about it on Brandon Thorne breakdown he did, how he likes to bull rush him, and so he was kind of prepared for those moves. And you got to be prepared for his power, because if you're not prepared for it, and he just had a good understanding of what Anderson was going to do to him, so you could tell he's a really good lineman. I think the only bad game I watched with him is Brian Breesy gave him trouble, just caught him leaning all the time, which was weird, but in the bowl game, but the Colts versus Tennessee, but other than that, man, he has some really clean tape. 70 is kind of crazy, but
you're saying 70 is crazy. That's what you're saying.
Okay. Yes.
Right. And something that I'm looking at right now in his Senior Bowl weigh-in, it said that he has 8.5-inch hands, which would be second percentile for all tackles who have ever been drafted. So we know offensive line coaches, they have their preferences. Maybe that knocks him off some boards, and maybe 70 isn't that crazy. But, when you get to the 3rd round, you're not going to get a completely clean prospect. Sometimes it's going to be they got all the measurables, but the tape isn't great. I would prefer a guy that had all the tape. That the tape is great and some of the measurables are questionable. If the tape is great, let's go with that, right? So, but maybe that's a reason why he's there at 70. You're saying 70 is crazy, but yeah. So, I would have a preference of guys with good film, and then if there's some weird things with the measurables, I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think that. With the hands, that probably might knock him a little bit, and it might end up having him be there at 70. But it just his tape is so good, and he has such a great Senior Bowl that it's but the NFL is so weird. I mean, it's all about who wants you, right? I mean, that's really how the draft is. Who wants you at that moment in time, and that's why some guys fall because people just don't. Some teams draft for need, some teams draft for best player available at all times. Some teams trade up and get guys, and they trade back. It's such a wheel and deal with especially day two. Day two is a lot of wheel and deal and a lot of trades. There's not that many trades day one as people like, especially anymore. But especially with the fifth year option, in my opinion. But second and third day, no, day two. I mean, even day three,
fifth year option. Yeah, that fifth year option. I also, I don't think that Ziegler is going to trade 2 first-round picks in a row, in consecutive years. We were talking about him probably would have to, add that as compensation to get Aaron Rodgers. I think Ziegler, he already drafted away a first and a second last year. I think he wants to make a first-round pick as a GM. Like that's what you do. That's what you dream of when you become a GM, right? But what about the possibility of trading down into the mid to even late first round, maybe getting a guy like Anthony Richardson later on in the first round, and then stacking some chips for some other moves. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that would be it's kind of what I want them to do, to be honest, because they need so many young players. I mean, we need as many picks as possible. So I don't know how you guys are going to get those picks, but they need to figure it out how they're going to move back and get more picks. And I don't know what compensatory. What was it? I don't know what I probably
compensatory. Right. Compensatory.
Compensatory. I'm sorry, I'm an idiot, guys. Compensatory picks.
We just watched film.
Right. I don't know which ones to get into those. So, so with that, we got to see how that goes, man. But they need more picks. So
right.
if they feel like there's somebody, if they have a good feel of the draft, which I think they did last year, I think Dave Ziegler did have a good feel of the draft. And he was able to decide where to go, when to trade back. I think he had a good feel of who was going to pick where.
Okay.
And if he has a good feel of that, then he can trade back and still get guys that he wants. If he has a good feel of a guy's going to fall or not. So we'll see, man. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
because like the quarterbacks, right? If they trade back, if somebody trades up with them and doesn't take a quarterback, right, into 7, and they trade back, it's all on if the Panthers take a quarterback. And like, what if the Panthers, what if they sign Derek Carr, right? Do they take a quarterback? No. So you could trade back out of it, get more picks, and still get your quarterback.
I mean, even if they do take Derek Carr, they should probably still draft a quarterback. But yeah, I agree.
I doubt they will. Frank won't do that. He's gonna go with the veteran.
You're gonna upset Derek Carr right there, right? Yeah, but anyways, but yeah, I mean, look, these. I just saw a clip from the Ravens offensive coordinator. I'm blanking on his name right now, but he was talking about the recipe for winning. Okay, and he's talking about all this stuff that we know. Protecting the football and converting on, third downs and all this stuff. And the last thing he says is having an athletic quarterback who can make plays off schedule. That's the last thing he says. And I think that this is the sea change, what we've seen from like when we were growing up, when we're seeing the Bradys and the Mannings and the Brees, right? And they're setting all these records and they're constantly, perennially, competing at the highest levels of football. What we're seeing now is like a pendulum swing. We're seeing the quarterbacks who can make things happen with their legs. Those are the quarterbacks who are competing in the playoffs, deep into the playoffs each year. And so I'll just cap this off by saying this is what the Raiders need. The Raiders need to get on board with that. Need to get a quarterback who can make some improvisational plays and honestly bail Josh McDaniels out. And maybe that's what they said. Hey, Derek Carr can't bail us out. Derek Carr is going to run the offense, and if he doesn't like it, then he might switch some plays. But we need a quarterback who is going to get out the pocket, run for, break one for 20, 30 yards every 3 quarters, do something like that, do something spectacular with his legs. Because right now, honestly, if you don't have a quarterback who can do that, I don't think that you have much of a chance against, because these defenses are sitting on pass all game long.
Yeah. I mean, whoever they draft, they have the same exact profile. When we do the quarterback, we'll do like a quarterback show or something after the combine, and we'll get all the combine measurements, and we'll figure out what quarterback they're going to take at that point. But every quarterback they take is the same. So, and Josh McDaniels, he picked Jimmy Garoppolo, and my tidbit from that is they thought he was a dual threat coming out. That's how they viewed it.
That is a dual threat, and Jacoby Brissett was a dual threat.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's what he wanted. Like he said what did Josh McDaniels say in that book? He said we need a quarterback that can move, not a quarterback who just stands there in the pocket. We need a guy who can move. They're looking at Johnny Manziel.
Right. Yeah, you need that. You do need that. So I think that's all it comes down to with Derek Carr, as he represents kind of like the old guard of quarterback, the Matt Ryan, the Andy Dalton. The Derek Carr, the guys who are never going to be as good as Drew Brees and Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and they played that kind of style of pocket passer, playing from the pocket and everything. And I just don't think that that's a viable way to play anymore. I think you got to be something else. You got to be a very gifted athlete to play quarterback in the NFL. It's like the hardest position of any sport in any league to play.
Main reason is because the offensive linemen they can't handle the athleticism.
They cannot handle it anymore. Nope. They cannot handle it anymore.
You got Mazi Smith coming.
Exactly.
They can't handle it no more, bro. It's tough. It's tough.
It's crazy. It's crazy because we can name a bunch of D tackles and don't even get it started on edges. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. If you ask someone to name you 10 offensive linemen in the NFL, they're going to be like,
They can tell you the bad one on their team.
Right.
Gets beat all the time.
They can tell you a lot more bad than good. And there is a huge talent gap, huge talent discrepancy between offensive line and defensive line in the NFL right now across the league. And it's never going to get better. I mean, these guys all get paid defensive tackle or defensive end. If you get a bunch of sacks, you're getting paid $20 million plus a year, Yeah. But centers aren't getting paid that much money. Guards aren't getting paid that much money. There's no money. And it's not the same kind of thing. If you're an elite athlete who's big, you're playing defensive line. And if not, we'll try to make you work at offensive linemen. So that's just what it comes down to. I completely agree with that. That's a great assessment.
All right. We're out of here, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this mock draft. Enjoyed everything that we talked about. Also, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Subscribe. Also, like I said, talk about those memberships I talked about earlier. You get a whole bunch of draft. I got a whole bunch of draft breakdowns there, guys. Draft, linemen, defensive linemen. We never know. We might need a running back. We're in franchise tag season with Josh McDaniels. Franchise tag time. He could be tagged at any time, any point in time. He could be tagged tomorrow. He could be tagged right now when you're watching the show. So
he will be tagged.
He will be tagged. Will he be happy about it? Will be the question.
Right.
All right. We're out of here, guys. Peace.
That's it. Holla at you.